Welcome to High Bank Fury, the podcast. I'm Ray J. Akers of SkyViewSports.net. With us, Bob Francis of GoFullThrottle.net, Dustin Long of NBC Sports. And right now, we are going to be talking a very topical issue going on in NASCAR right now, and it's what are the lengths of having a teammate? I mean, do you let them go by? Do you stop them? There's all kinds of thoughts going on. What did you guys think of the whole Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell along with Ty Gibbs potential mayhem last week over at New Hampshire?
Well, I'll tell you what, it was an interesting situation, but it's a situation that is going to come up, and it has come up in the past, and it's going to come up more and more. Um, and we even saw it even with Josh Berry. And again, Josh Berry is not at Team Penske, but Wood Brothers Racing is they're essentially in a lot of ways that fourth Penske car. So, look, he was pressing Blaney at the end of the race. Again, that was for the win. I think from Denny Hamlin's point of view is that look, we're racing for 11th, and look, I know you're having a frustrating day, Ty, but you know, at the end of the day, we need the championship guys need to get into that top 10 to score stage points because it could help advance further on where we're trying to win a championship for the organization. And unfortunately, Ty didn't, advance to the playoffs, so he can't do that. Now, I also understand Ty's point of view is I think he had kind of been frustrated a little bit earlier with how he was being raced by someone else. And I think he's just like, look, I'm going to defend my territory and I'm going to race hard. And again, this is he's trying to like he's still trying to get his first win and when you've got you're the only one of an organization of a powerful organization like Joe Gibbs Racing, you haven't won, you haven't gotten in the playoffs this year. There's a lot of internal pressure. I don't think Joe's putting it on as much, but I think Ty feels it. Just the pressure he has on himself just because he wants to do well and he wants to knock down that wall and get that first win, and he wants to get in the playoffs and deliver a championship at some point for Joe Gibbs Racing. But I think the question is, hey, when even though it's early in the race, is it better just to let a teammate by, get back in line, and not lose too many spots or lose the potential of getting hit and getting sent into the wall? And I think that's part of the discussion they have to have at Joe Gibbs Racing.
Bob.
Yeah, it's interesting. The situational awareness and thinking about the bigger picture of the organization's goals and objectives versus each individual driver. As Dustin noted, you can make an argument, a strong argument from both perspectives. But I think, Coach is a master of leadership. And I appreciated his comments to you, Dustin, and to the other members of the media that were there, saying he was going to let the drivers settle this amongst themselves. And I think he has always defined his leadership style as one of trying to bring the temperature down and have a calm, rational discussion. I'm confident that that's what happened at Joe Gibbs Racing this week. And I think that he's going to set that stage for how that conversation happens in the future, because I think Dustin nailed it. This is not the last time that those teammates are going to tangle with each other. And Denny's trying to set a precedent and have all the drivers look at the bigger picture. But every driver on that track wants to go out and win a race. As Dustin articulated, there's a lot of pressure on Ty Gibbs, much of that, I think, from himself. And he's going to have to learn those lessons of when, where that line is of how hard do I press my teammates and when do I not pull out of the way and move over, but at least not be pushing people down onto the apron when I don't have to.
And another thing, Bob, is just that, look, if I'm Christopher Bell or I'm Chase Briscoe, I want to know what happens out of this conversation and where things stand because what if what's the expectation? And I think that just needs to be made clear to everybody is like, look, in this situation, because maybe a couple of the other Gibbs cars don't advance. And look, if I'm Christopher Bell and I'm the only one in the next round, yes, I would be expecting help and I would be expecting certain things. Am I going to get it? How are we going to play? Are we going to play nice? Or are we just going to do our individual thing? Now, again, we're talking about early in the race. outside of top 10 as Danny's trying to get in the top 10 to put himself in position for stage point. If they're racing for the win, again, that's a different situation. Obviously,
Right.
it goes back to, hey, don't wreck your teammate. And again, that's something that like Roger Penske told his guys after they wrecked each other in the Daytona 500 a few years ago, and Michael McDowell won. It's like, look, we don't want to be wrecking each other. Race hard, but let's bring it home. And I think that has to be the message, even in this situation, and with a playoff driver. If you're racing your teammate is non-playoff driver at the end of the race. Now, again, as a non-playoff driver, I think you also have to be aware of. Look, you can go for the win, but don't go and make a bonsai move that has a 20% chance of succeeding, but that has a greater chance of taking out your teammate. If you can make the move, make it. But if it's going to be a high risk move, then you need to think a second about maybe doing that.
Real quick, let's go. There was a scrum that developed out in pit row with Denny Hamlin, and this video was taken by Matt Weaver. And Denny kind of gives us his thoughts on this particular situation.
Your perspective is you were trying to nudge him out of the way but not spin him? Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, I certainly did not want to spin out, certainly a teammate of anyone. I was trying to get space to race and trying to get by the 54 and just got into it.
You were trying to knock him out of the way?
I was trying to get by him. that was a task in itself.
What's the discussion that needs to happen, if any, with the tie or between you or somebody else?
Yeah, I'll let leadership kind of quarterback it however they'd like to. But obviously, us, the 2019, are all trying to win a championship for their family. So it's crazy, unfortunate why we're racing the way we are.
I think Denny gave some pointed comments. I do think he feels like he should be let through. I'm like you guys. I see both sides of the argument. The one thing is that with Ty Gibbs, he's been in NASCAR now for 3 years at the Cup level full time. He has 100 race or so losing streak. He wants to break it. He has a talent to be a winner in NASCAR. So you have that, fellas. You guys have a couple of real quick biters because we definitely want to get to Coach Gibbs.
No, I think we covered it. It's just that I think it's just there has to be an understanding going into the Kansas race and beyond what the expectation is for a non-playoff car that is a teammate, and when they're being raced by a teammate that is in the playoffs.
All right.
Right. And what is that towards the end of a stage? And how does that change if we're going for the win at the end of the race, Roy and Dustin?
Yeah. All right. On the other side of this break, we are going to have Chris Gabehart as Dustin talked to him after the race. He was in a scrum on pit road. He also talked to Coach Gibbs. We're going to have a couple of comments on those, and it'll be a wrap on this edition of High Bank Fury, the podcast. This is Roy J. Akers for the High Bank Fury podcast. We are followed multiple times weekly where we talk to NASCAR drivers, cover stories, and those that shape the sport. This is not just another podcast. We get exclusive content, talk fantasy NASCAR racing, and spill the news before other media outlets drop their take. We are on all podcast channels, the YouTube channel, and can be found on skyviewsports.net. Check out High Bank Fury, the podcast, today. Well, Dustin, I can see why you like to be on pit road. We go up to the press box. We like to have all the glory up there and see all the race, but you're doing some of the blood and guts down there on pit road and, going to the medical care shop, or not care, but you're going to the medical care tent or whatever. And you're also getting these types of stories. You're right there. And Chris Gabehart, he talked a little bit about what was what he thinks should happen, and that a lot of times egos are happening. But how did you present the question, and what do you think was going through his mind? And take us as you kind of talked to Chris on this question.
Up until this point, has the vibes in the garage or the shop been okay? Like, was this simmering before this point?
Yeah, I mean, sure, but again, like I said, every team member on Joe Gibbs Racing wants to win. I mean, we really do, like anybody, but want to win 38 races a year, and that type of mentality forces really competitive and truthfully really selfish mentality at times. So, you got to balance that and understand and respect it out of all of your competitors, and that includes the competitors inside your walls.
Yeah, I think Chris was just asked just about, what comes next. And I think it's, how they have to address the situation and just how it needs to be addressed and moving forward so everybody has a clear understanding. And I think that's going to be the big thing, for this team. And again, like I think any organization should look at what happened here with the Gibbs cars and should be, you know, reiterating to the entire team, to their teams, hey, this if we're in this situation, a reminder, this is how we want you to act or what to do and what not to do or when to cut a break or when it's okay to race. So I think it's a conversation that's had to take place at Joe Gibbs Racing, and I think that it's a conversation or a reminder for all the other organizations out there how they need to handle it when you're racing a teammate that's and still competing for a championship.
Bob.
Yeah, I concur, and I also think there's a lesson learned here across the board. I just flash back to some of these uncomfortable conversations that happened with Ross Chastain in seasons past. It wasn't a teammate to teammate, but they were within the Chevy umbrella. So there's that manufacturer expectation that comes into play. I mean, in the Chastain cases, nobody wants to get a call from Mr. H. So I think Dustin nailed it. There is that, the takeaway at Gibbs, there's the takeaway across all organizations. Hey, let's think this through and make sure we've discussed it. And then there's the manufacturer's expectations across many different teams.
All right. Well, Dustin, you did do a kind of a walk and talk with Coach Gibbs post race, and anyway, you remember your 15-second your short question, and Gibbs gave you about 15 seconds on that. Kind of take us through what you asked him and what you thought the results of that conversation were.
Well, just basically what happens next and what do they have to do, and he says, look, they're going to have to get together and they're going to have to do it on their own and they're going to have to figure it out, as in his words, figure it out. So I got to think that the management's going to be a little bit more involved than just say, hey, you guys get together. But yeah, I think that's one step is you've got to have the conversation. There's got to be the communication. You can't just you just can't not have them talk. So have the communication, go from there, build and then move forward and move on.
No, I think those guys all are the ones driving the cars. No, I think those guys all are the ones driving the cars. And so we'll kind of those guys will get together on their own and figure it out.
In my opinion, I think anything that takes a Gibbs car away from winning a championship, as Denny alluded to earlier in our episode, or they start damaging the cars and taking everybody out, so to speak, JGR, Coach Gibbs, he's not going to put up with that, right?
Well, just think about this too, is in that incident with between Denny and Ty, Christopher Bell almost got collected. So you could have had for Joe Gibbs Racing, you could have had, let's say everything went really, really badly and that all of a sudden Hamlin's got damage to his car. Christopher Bell gets collected. Now you've had three of your cars wrecking and damaged, and now it's the first race of the round, so there's still a chance to come back. But now you put, potentially the 11 in a hole, the 20 in a hole, and now instead of the idea you're thinking, hey, we still got a chance to get three cars to Phoenix. You're just hoping you can get, one or two cars just out of the next round, or what it's going to take to get all three cars out of this round to the next round. So that's why it can be. I mean, look, in an instant, Joe Gibbs Racing's championships hopes, really could have taken a big hit if things had really gone south.
On the other side of this 30, we have a final comment on this topic by Ryan Blaney, the race winner in New Hampshire. And he's going to talk about how he feels like he and the Penske team, they settle their issues. And we're going to find out if he agrees with it or not. We're going to have comments on that next.
Racing for the lead, we know what this is for. So fully expect us to race hard, but race clean. Like, I was never going to lay a bumper to Joey. Trying to get by him there in stage 3 or stage 1, I think. When he was leading, I got by him. Like, I just didn't want to do it that way. teammate or not. I didn't want to do it that way, especially with a teammate. Like, I'm not just going to rough you up. So, but I fully expect to race hard. And that's what Roger expects of us. You know, that's what Eddie and Len expect with the Wood brothers. Like, going to go out there, we're going to race really hard, but we're going to do it in a fair way. So, yeah, no, I thought we did everything great. I fully expected it to be tough racing, and we definitely showed that.
You heard Ryan Blaney played toward the end of that little segment, and Blaney basically just said that he can't let things go for a couple of days, and the team doesn't either. They need to address the elephant in the room very quickly. And do you think that's a great way to go, Bob?
Well, I think Denny Hamlin called that out. He sort of addressed the elephant in the room, which is the obvious relationship between grandfather team owner and grandson the racer, when he said on the radio for the world to hear, "Are you guys afraid to go talk to him?" So I think Denny sort of called that out, you know, when he still had the helmet on in the heat of the moment of the car. And that is exactly part of that dynamic of the resolution they need to drive to.
Yeah, it's just it's going to be communication, and you've got again. I go back to the Penske situation with Keselowski and Logano at Daytona and the Daytona 500 and wrecking, and look, Penske has lived through that, and you know, they hate that they lost that race because of that, but I think they're probably a better organization because they've gotten through that. There's a clear understanding of what you're supposed to do, and I think that's just where Joe Gibbs Racing is. And they'll move on from this, and they'll be better for it. It's a painful lesson, but it's a lesson.
Yeah. Very quickly, to me, I think that if Ty Gibbs, if he knew that Denny and the veterans had his back and said, "Look, this is our time. We're in the playoffs. You're going to have your time. And if we need to run a block for you and let you go to the front, that's going to happen. But right now, we're in the playoffs. We're here to get your family a championship. We're here to get us one." Denny is trying to run for historical reasons as well, trying to get number one. And so I think if they can sort through all that, and I think they are, they're men. Joe Gibbs, as you all said, he's a master coach and all that. I got to wrap us up here because we're going to be going off here in a moment. Bob Francis at GoFullThrottle.net. Dustin Long from NBCSports.com/NASCAR. I'm Roy G.
That was it.
From Skyview Sports and High Bank Fury. Until next time, we'll see you at the checkered flag.
Here it is again. This has gone on for many laps. Denny ran him up the racetrack in 3 and 4. And that was the, "Hey, man, I've had enough. Time to go." Denny Hamlin just simply sends him around. Now,